We're going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Floyd, Frazier, Cost, Bub, and Marmee. First item on the agenda is a request for resolution authorizing and directing the auditor of the City of Newark to pay bills on behalf of Division of Police pursuant to Section 5705.41D, then and now certification and declaring an emergency.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. We've had a bit of an emergency at the police division. The hot water tank let loose on us. It was something unforeseen, so we had to bypass the customary procedure. Local vendor did a marvelous job, and we'd like to pay them, please.
Motion by Floyd, second by Cost. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the City of Newark to prepare and submit application to the Ohio Governor's Office of Criminal Justice Services for fiscal year 2016 Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant funding.
This resolution will allow us to apply for a grant this year. We haven't determined what that will be.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Floyd. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So these matching funds are available for detectives, right? What are those activities?
They're not for the detectives, they're for the Division of Police. In the past, we've primarily applied for technology grants.
Okay.
This is not a personnel grant, so my guess is we will be again applying for technology. It's a 75% funding from the state, and we can either get a waiver for the 25% depending on when the application comes out. I don't know whether we'll be able to use in-kind as a match.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $2,422.82.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Battalion 1's our command vehicle was involved in a non-injury accident. The insurance company paid the city as opposed to the service provider. The fire division fronted those funds, and we'd ask that you allow us to put those back into the division's accounts, please.
Motion. Second. Motion by Bub, second by Floyd. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,098.07.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the Division of Fire has done some house cleaning, if you will. They've sold some items. We've had a run on our maintenance account this year. We've had some unforeseen engines on ladder 2, so on and so forth, refurb tower 1. We'd like to put these monies back in to replenish the maintenance account in the division, please.
Motion.
I have a motion by Floyd, second by Cost. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
5-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $61,286.40.
This appropriation request pertains to our summer youth grant that we received from Licking County Job and Family Services.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Any questions or discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $142,661.83.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have had the perfect storm with the city insurance. We had we had less than 1% of the employees spend more than 35% of the money in the first 3 months of the year. We do have insurance to cover us once a bill goes over $100,000, but we had a bunch at once. Normally it'll be 1 or 2 a year spread over a period of time. We just got whacked. So I've talked we have a health insurance committee. They're made up of 6 members. There are 2 from the police department, the reps for A and B, the local union president for fire, local union president for ASME, and 2 non-bargaining unit employees. We've been meeting since, I think it was October of last year. We meet once a month. And what we want to do is increase the total premium by 7%. The city would continue to pay 88% of that. The employees would pay 12% of that. That's what's in the current agreement. This agreement expires at the end of the year. I can't make you promises on anything there other than we're going to be working on it.
Questions or discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion by Floyd, second by Cost. Questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Brooks.
can you explain that real quick again about what the employees are going to be picking up on this?
Okay, with the total bill, everybody thinks they're going to have a 7% added on. It won't be 12 anymore. It'll be, whatever it be, 19. That's not the case. The total bill that we pay, by contract, the city pays 88% of that, and the workers pay 12% of that. That will remain the same. But the total bill is increasing, so we're going to increase the premiums by 7%.
Gotcha. And you could very well come back in a few months and need more, correct?
Well, it depends on the next few bills that we get, how it goes throughout the year. The way this goes out when you try to do the best you can to get it out there. Worst case scenario, we'd be 32,000 in the hole. About the middle of the road, we'd have about $200,000 at the end of the year left over. That's not hardly anything when your bills, you get 2 bills a month and they're normally around $300,000, but it beats the crap out of going broke. So, nobody knows when they're going to get sick. This was I talked to MedBen, they hadn't really seen anything like this.
And do you think this is the only funding mechanism that we can use to do this?
I don't know of any others.
It's a definite big hit. That's all I have.
Yes, Mr. Frazier.
When do you reconcile this monthly?
Yes, well, I guess after every bill that we receive, we keep a running total so we know where we're at.
And then in those monthly discussions that you have with those representatives, are they okay with the 7% increase, or have you discussed it with them?
Nobody wants to pay more, but yes, they have agreed that we need to do it. We're also looking at health care, or forget what it's called now, different thing, where everyone would be required to follow the American Medical Association guidelines of when you get this test and when you get that test. The city currently pays for those. Those help us. Maybe we can find something wrong and only cost 10 cents instead of waiting a couple months and it costs $10. So that's what we're looking at, and we actually have a meeting on that. It's I think it's next week. We'll have everybody together, and our brokers bringing in the nurses and stuff that would actually administer that program. But that kicks in over a period of time. That's not an overnight wham, start saving money, but that is a very good thing that we need to be doing.
And so this 7% increase that you're recommending in a couple of months, if we don't get the bills or there's overages, is that carried through the end of the year, or is that something that
We have to pay them as they come in.
No, I'm talking about, let's say we have less bills come in.
Okay.
Next month, over the next 2 months.
Then hopefully, what we call investment starts to rise. Really, we would like for it, and it needs to be around $1.5 million. Just to give you a little bit of leeway or break, if you will. Right now, it's floating around 500 to 600,000, and I'm not sleeping. And I'm not even in the plan, but I don't want it to crash.
Further questions?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. It seems to me we don't really have a choice in this matter. I mean, that, you know, we owe it to the employees. It's part of their contract. The insurance is included, right?
Yep.
And the unions have agreed to the 7% increase. And while they don't like it and we don't like it, you know, it certainly is necessary. And like you said, it's sort of this everything hit at one time.
Yes. That is correct on all counts.
And it's a number of different individuals, right? It's not
Yes.
just one major
No.
cancer case.
No, we have a policy that we pay for, and it at 100,000, the other insurance kicks in and takes care of the rest of the bills. We had a couple over $1 million this year, but we paid the first 100.
Okay.
We have to maintain that insurance. I mean, you have no choice.
Where were we at the end of last year?
I can pull it up for you, Doug. Right now I'm doing it from memory, so I hate to do that, but I'm going to say it was less than $1 million.
And we gave 2 premium holidays last year.
3.
And we still ended up less than $1 million, and we want to be at 1.5.
I think so. Again, I can pull that or forward you the spreadsheet, and it's got date by date, everything that went in, everything that came out. I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out. I didn't bring it in here with me.
Okay.
I mean, that was part of trying to make the budget.
Right. The other question I have, and this is probably more directed towards the mayor or the auditor, where are we at then now with with this fund that we're pulling from what we normally call the rainy day fund?
We are, let me check, is Steve in there?
He is not coming tonight.
I can't, I'll have to give you that exact number. We had about 460,000 in there, I believe.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that is because, you know, we really are down the street paving. Our roads are fastly deteriorating. We had discussions about moving some of that over for street paving because we don't want to get further behind. And, you know, we had a very mild winter this winter, but next winter you never know. Mm-hmm. And so I would hope that we would still utilize some of that. I understand this need. I really do. You know, hindsight is 20/20. If we want to be around 1.5, then until we get to that number, I think the premium holidays definitely should not occur. So that's just, again, my opinion. It's not anything I can legislate, but
We have talked, and none of this is official yet. I told you we had the insurance committee. Mm-hmm. That could possibly be something that's possibly be in the next contract that there isn't any such thing.
Well, and as a reminder, we didn't do it to balance this year's budget.
right.
So,
No,
so you know, which was a pretty good sign in that way. We had employee increases that were mandated through negotiations that kind of hit us there for one thing. This insurance plan has been wonderful since we've had it. For those of you newer on council, we are self-insured. So that means we pay claims up to that $100,000 each year. And so as insurance companies need to raise premiums, we may need to at times. We've been very, I think 2010 was the last time, was that right, Mike, that we raised them, I believe?
I've been told that, I'm not positive.
And but it's been unbelievably low that we haven't had to do that since we initiated the plan. Most conventional plans have probably gone up anywhere from 10 to 20% every year, and they've been very fortunate claims experiences. Knock on wood, been healthy employees and healthy dependents. It's turned the other way a little bit, unexpected. As Mike said, the beginning of the year, the first 3 months, less than 1% of the insureds claimed more than 35% of the claims in a way. So it's an unusual situation. Not putting money into, when we pay 80% of the premium, when there is the premium, that means we got to pay more too. That's the, I would say, downside, but not really, because the net effect of the entire plan is still very favorable to self-insure in that respect. The one advantage we have, we can kind of do it a little tighter and also a little quicker than an insurance company would in some ways. So as a result, we can respond a little better. 1.5 is desirable, and something we'll work towards, but we'd have no intentions of taking any other holidays up to that point for sure. So.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount, wait a minute. Make sure I got everything right here. That's it. That's it. Yeah, I don't know why. We've got double everything.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, this is kind of divided. Each of these sections have to be divided into the funds. They're all for the same thing.
Yes.
Section 2 is for a 100 account, which is general fund.
Right.
The other one have to come out of the stormwater fund, the sewer fund, the water fund, etc. So each of those are similar.
So I need a motion. This one's for the OPT fund.
Second.
Bob and Frazier. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes 5-0. The next one is for $11,521.50. It's the same issue. Motion by Bob, second by Frazier. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next one is $22,957.15.
Motion.
Motion by Floyd.
Second.
Second by Bob. Questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Next one is for $2,511.11.
Motion.
Motion by Frazier. Second. Second by Bob. Questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next item is $13,201.92.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Frazier, second by Floyd. Questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And the final item on the agenda is a request for a resolution authorizing the City of Newark, Ohio to raise the premium rate for health insurance contributions in order to properly fund the city's insurance reserve account and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Motion by Floyd, second by Bob. Questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes 5-0. All right, and that's all that we have for the Finance Committee meeting. Next item up, our next committee is Streets.
Okay, I'm going to call the Street Committee to order. Committee members present are Hall, Lake, Rath, Roletta, Johnson, Mr. Bug from Mr. Marmee, and myself. Our first ordinance is Ordinance 16-11, vacating a portion of a 16.5-foot wide alley running north from West Main Street between properties at 108 and 112 West Main Street. Mr. Moorhead.
Thank you. Both of these items were before you, and you passed resolutions of intent to vacate both of these last fall, and they kind of slipped between the cracks, and we never finished them off with an ordinance to vacate. So basically, that's what we're doing here. On this alley, there was no opposition from any of the safety forces or anyone else for that matter. So we'll ask for your consideration to pass the ordinance on to council for a full vote.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Rath, second by...
I second.
Okay, Mr. Johnson. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Rath.
You may have said this, and if you did, I apologize. I wasn't listening close enough. We already had a public hearing in this.
You'll have a public hearing. You had a committee meeting previously, and then you voted on resolutions at a council meeting last fall, but you'll also have a public hearing before you vote on this at your next council meeting.
Do you remember how I voted?
No, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, the second one is ordinance number 16-12, vacating a portion of a 12-foot wide alley as shown on the plat of the John McCune's edition as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 246 of the Licking County Plat Records, located between properties at 301 and 303 Clinton Street.
Yes, this is the same situation. Your resolution of intent was passed last fall, and in both of these cases, I should have stated on the last one, the property owners that adjoin either side of the alley have fully signed the petition, so there's no notice necessary to be published, so there's no publishing fees will be due from the property owners. On the Clinton Street one, the same owner actually owns both sides of the alley now. The property, I believe, on the north side went to foreclosure, and he was able to buy it, so he wants to vacate the alley and be able to fence off his entire property then.
Any questions? Okay, motion by Mr. Rath.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bub. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 7-0, and we're done. Next is service.
Okay, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Frazier, Floyd, and Bub. Up first, consider Resolution 16-44, authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to accept bids and sell certain surplus personal property now owned by the City of Newark, Ohio, and declaring that such property is no longer needed for any municipal purpose and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are planning on June 4th to have an auction at the service complex. We're selling many automobiles as well as bicycles and other office furniture that the city owns and other items from departments. The reason there's an emergency on here is we have to walk back a certain number of days from the auction date to make sure we meet all our deadlines.
Motion.
Motion by Bub, seconded by Frazier.
And if you haven't been to an auction, come on down. Come on down. The street department works hard. Police department works hard to get this ready. It's a lot of work.
Any questions from committee members? Any questions from anybody in the audience?
I have a question. We're not selling...
Not the audience.
Yeah, I'm up here. These bicycles and items, they're not like the police bicycles that they're...
No, these are bicycles we pick up on street corners that are left that we put to the police department. They sell anywhere from $1 to $5.
Excellent.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, seeing no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Chair.
that concludes our service department. Service committee meeting. Up next will be rules.
All right, we'll go ahead and call this Rules Committee to order. Members present are Mr. Johnson, Mr. Frazier sitting in for Mr. Marmee, and myself. The only item on our agenda tonight is discuss Council Rule 8 per Councilman Blake's request, so I will let him start by making some comments here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank you and the committee for allowing this meeting to occur. I guess for some period of time, actually since I've been on council, the way that appointments occur and the definition of appointments, we never really had, there seems to you get different opinions, so I'm glad that the law director is here this evening so we can have an open public discussion about what's a mayor's appointment, what's a city of Newark appointment, understanding what those different roles that council has. When I first got on council, it was as though the city of Newark appointments would appear on a council agenda, then the council president would call for an up or down vote, and that was it. And then after some inquiry, now we have the person appears on the agenda. The mayor does provide some comments about the person either being reappointed or some type of background, but still the council just votes up or down. There's no motion, there's no second related to those City of Newark appointments. I'm of the opinion that any type of City of Newark appointment should go through the normal legislative process through a resolution. But at first I just wanted to, and I'm glad Doug is here, the director's here, so that we can have an open discussion to understand what's a mayor's appointment, what's a City of Newark appointment, and then I guess there's a third option too, which is council's appointments or any of those. I think those are very rare, but those exist as well. And so so I guess that's the intent of why I wanted to, this is a public forum, so this is really the only way to get a public discussion with all members of council to understand those different areas. There's been email exchanges and things of that nature, but I just wanted a public discussion about appointment processes and what those mean. And I guess that was the intent. So I want to thank you for convening the meeting today. And then Director Sasson, if you wanted to have
well, I can frame the issue that I've done in email to a couple of you, but there are essentially three types of appointments that the city makes. And those types of appointment and which type applies to each board or commission is really not driven by city law or council rule. It's driven by essentially the founding documents of the agency to which the appointment is being made. Sometimes those founding documents are statutory, sometimes they're the bylaws or the regulations of the organization. So we're obligated to follow that process. I know that, Mr. Chairman, you asked me the other day to give you an example of an appointment that's made by the legislative authority, and quite frankly, I haven't been able to come up with one, but I know that there are, and those are generally statutory in nature, that when the city is required by the revised code to make an appointment to a particular body, there are circumstances under which it will say the appointment is to be made by the legislative authority. I spent a little bit of time today scratching my head and couldn't come up with a good example of one of those for you, but I know they're out there.
Thank you.
That's one category of appointments that are made. A second category are appointments that are made by the city, okay? And normally, let's say, by the municipal corporation. Historically and consistently across various municipalities, that's interpreted to mean a recommendation from the administration with consent of council. The mayor would make a recommendation to a person, council votes, approves or disapproves. If council disapproves, the mayor comes up with another name. And then the third category of appointments are those that are made by the mayor. And when the founding documents of the board or commission to which the appointment is being made says by the mayor, it means specifically that. The mayor appoints who he or she wants. Council has no say in it, no power to confirm or not that appointment. Those are essentially the three processes. The manner that that's been handled procedurally has essentially just developed as a matter of practice over time. And it's fairly consistent. If you keep those three categories in mind, it doesn't appear consistent when things appear on the agenda because maybe it's a different kind of an appointment. So there's very few things that council itself can do to manipulate that process. Essentially, if you're talking about council rules, or council passing a rule as to how those appointments are going to be made, that rule would be restricted to those appointments that are made by the legislative authority. Okay? Because council can't pass a rule that impacts some third party or that impacts an administrative function. So if you were to do this by rule, that process would be restricted to appointments that are made by the legislative authority, not those made by the city, not those made by the mayor. You could mandate the procedure that Mr. Blake is talking about here, where an appointment is handled just like any other piece of legislation, put into the form of a resolution with committee action, motion, second, debate, vote. But in order for that to impact appointments that are made by the municipal corporation or by the mayor, that would have to be through the charter and through an amendment to the charter. And it would be easy enough to do, but it can only be done by the Charter Review Commission. So I guess that's the best I can do at framing the issue. So if this committee were to act, any action taken by this committee, and I recommended, I think, to Jeremy, Rule 8, and there might have been one other rule that we looked at as possibly this language could go into. It'd be a fairly simple modification, but that modification would be limited in its scope.
Great. Thank you, Director Sassen. Mr. Blake?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to focus on City of Newark appointments again. Perhaps it might be helpful to understand how the current process developed, and then knowing, I clearly hear you saying that any future change in that process would have to happen through the city charter, which is up for review next year, 2017. But perhaps it might be helpful to understand how the current process of just those names appearing on the agenda, maybe some history that you have there might want to share.
Can't really answer that other than that I've been involved with Newark politics and government for about 28 years, and it's been that way since I got here 28 years ago. How or why did it begin that way? Previous law director probably looked at history, looked at other communities, but I can say that for a very, very long time, that's the process by which it's been done.
And just because something's been done a long time doesn't mean it's...
I don't disagree with that. Yeah. There's no reason why we have to keep doing it, and if a change is desired, the change can be made. It's just what is the vehicle that we have to utilize to make that change. And to affect those that are made by the city or those that are made by the mayor, it needs to be done by a charter amendment. If it's done by a legislative authority, it can be done by council rule.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to weigh in on this discussion? Any members of the committee? Anyone in the audience? Mrs. Floyd?
I'm going to put on my civics teacher hat. I just remember as a civics teacher when we talked about the three forms of city government, and one of them was mayor-council. There was a weak mayor form of government and a strong mayor form of government. And under the weak mayor, council had more power to make appointments and to do that kind of thing. Under a strong mayor form of government, the mayor has more powers. And according to the charter, under the powers of the mayor, one of the things it lists is simply that the fact that the mayor has the power to appoint. And so it's, it would be up to the citizens of Newark through the charter, through a charter amendment to change that if they so desire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Floyd. Would anyone else like to make a comment?
Would it,
Mr. Blake?
Doug or anyone from would it be possible to see what, I know you said you looked into, couldn't find any appointments for legislative authority, but is there a way, or is there a list somewhere that exists that are supposed to be, I'm not focused on mayor's appointments, I understand that, he can appoint whoever he wants, but I'm focused on the city of Newark appointments. Is there any
check with Jennifer, because I know that Jennifer has compiled a list of appointments that are made by the mayor directly and by the mayor with consent of council. I'm not sure if that list has gone so far as to include appointments that are made by council, but I think checking with Jennifer would be the best place to start.
I'm just focused on the city of Newark, the ones that where they appear on our agenda and we have to vote up or down on.
Oh,
Those are the
Jennifer
ones
knows those.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe she has compiled that list fairly comprehensive.
Would anyone else like to make a comment? All right, we will go ahead and close this meeting, and capital improvements meets next.
Call capital improvements together. Members present are Hall, Rath, Loletta, Frazier, and Johnson. The agenda is to consider Resolution 1643 appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two items here tonight. The first one is $16,000 for computer hardware and software. Our servers in the city are 12 plus years old. When we began to look at this, we got a dollar amount that exceeded, I'm going to use an estimated amount, a little over $30,000. So I went and I spoke to every one of the departments to see what they could chip in. The judges were kind enough to kick some money in. The water department through their fund was kind enough to kick some money in. And a few other dollars came in, so we whittled this down to as low a cost as we could out of our capital improvements dollars. That amount is $16,000, but the expense of this project is more than double that, but because of other participants from other departments who do use these servers also, we may be able to get our share down to $16,000.
What is your pleasure?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Frazier. Second by Hall. This is for the first section, number 1, $16,000.
Yep.
Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Okay.
How long do you think this is going to last us?
Well, again, these previous servers are over 12 years old. I would hope we'd get the same life or longer. Hopefully they make things better today. Hopefully.
And where are these stored at?
What's stored?
Yeah.
Servers are stored in different locations, but the ones in City Hall are right beside my office in the room there. And it's a cooled room.
And have we already spec'd what we're buying as far as servers?
Mm-hmm. We have throughout the link.
Okay. Would you be willing to send those specs to me?
Yeah, I can ask Alpha Link to send them over.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Any other discussion? From the audience? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. The next one then is the section 2 for maintenance of bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're asking for $80,000 to be moved out of our capital improvement dollars for street paving, streets, any bridge work that might need to be done. It's not as much money as we would like, but we do feel as though we have the money in this year's capital improvements dollars to move this towards the engineer's office.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Loletta,
Second.
second by Frazier. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
So this is to be determined for what this work is going to be going towards?
Right, the engineer's office once a year takes a look at the dollars they're able to accumulate for these types of projects. They prioritize those, and then they put a list together, and then we all meet, we talk about it, and then we determine how the dollars are spent.
And when do you think that the expenditures will come through?
Well, we just opened the bids, I think 2 weeks ago, to see what the cost of asphalt and paving would be. So that's what prompted us to take a look at this. You have to understand, along with this leaves a little money in capital improvements, so we wanted to make sure when we got to this point we were comfortable moving this dollar amount out so we wouldn't come back asking you to say maybe pay for an air conditioning unit or something along those lines. To answer your question, we're going to hopefully find some more dollars and maybe do some paving in the fall.
Mr. Rath?
How much does this leave in the capital improvements fund?
About $30,000.
How much of the capital improvement, I'm sorry, could I continue? I'm asking the chair, Mr. Frazier.
I don't have a problem.
I do not know.
Could I ask another question? How much of the capital improvement fund have we routed towards paving so far other than this dollar amount?
Out of this year's capital improvement funds, this is the first. This is the first. There are other funds that have been appropriated earlier for projects like the West Main paving project, what's going on with the highway, what's going on 30th Street. Those are all dollars that were appropriated at earlier times, previous years in some cases, but this is the first dollars we've appropriated this year.
Are there any other questions? Anything from the audience? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.